Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Knox Makers. It's Tuesday, and I'm Isaac. It's my pleasure to be your host this evening. It's our tradition to get together every Tuesday night for our open house. We've got some new folks here tonight that we welcome. We're pleased to show you around the shop and introduce you to the community. We invite everyone, members and guests alike, to bring in projects that they've been working on recently. Projects that are successful, projects that are not so successful, projects that are still in progress. We're just interested to see what you're up to. It's a source of inspiration and information for all of us. We've got several members who've signed up this evening to share their projects with us. And to start things off, we've got Brad, who's got some stained glass work.
Hello, I'm Bradnsley, and I'm primarily a woodworker and a boat builder. I've been on and off a member with COVID and everything, but and I'll be showing some stuff at another time of my woodworking projects, because I've done just about every kind of woodworking there is for 50 years. But there's a good friend of mine from Atlanta named George Goodyear, who's really excited to be moving up to the Knoxville area. He and I knew each other. Our parents knew each other before we were born. He's like my oldest friend. He's a brilliant artist and a great craftsman, and ran a studio in Atlanta called Art Glass Studio for about 40 years, taught hundreds of people who he employed to do stained glass, especially when they were right out of college or still trying to find out what they wanted to learn. And some of them became employees, some people started their own business, some people just use it as a hobby. But he's brought me a few pieces that he would take, he and his wife, she's a fantastic artist too, to craft shows and whatnot. And so I brought a couple of them because I just want you to see the level. This is, and I'll say it first too, just that there's a lot of stuff that gets thrown into the category of stained glass. I have one piece here that's stained glass, have another piece that I would call art glass. And generally, art glass is just glass that you would buy that's different colors that you would put together into whatever pattern that you like. Stained glass is where you paint the glass and fire it in a kiln. It's like you see in churches where there's writing. And George and his wife have done many churches, done repair work on many churches. They did a 16-foot diameter dome, took it all the way down, built scaffolding, took it all the way down, put it all the way back together at a little Methodist church in Oxford, Georgia, where Emory University was founded outside of Atlanta. So they got a tremendous breadth of experience, and he's really excited about being able to share and maybe start a stained glass department here at Knox Makers when they move up here. So I'll start out with this, which he and John made, and I'll pass it around. This is stained glass with art glass on the side. And
put it up next to the screen so we
yeah.
can use the light of the screen.
That,
Yeah, there.
and so that's all painted on, as you can see. When you, one side sort of this is the finished side, I would say, because the glass is protected by the glass. The actual glazing was done on this side. So so they made two of a lot of their stuff because there's always a lot of failures, potential failures, when you're firing something. So they just said, well, we got everything here, the paint, the glaze is all mixed, everything is right. We'll make two. If one of them fails, we'll still have one. If it doesn't fail, we use for something else. So if you'd like to look at these. And then this one is George and John also are consummate. They have a bevel machine. They make bevel glass. And they carve glass. So if you look at this round piece in the center, it's actually got a star pattern carved in it. It's fairly subtle. Yeah. And maybe you can even look at that, what it does on the.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of interesting. But anyway, these are two just barely scratches the surface of what they can do. And there was one piece I didn't bring where they actually, this is carved, the centerpiece was like 1 inch thick and then that's dome shape. They shaped that dome and then carved the star into it. So he's got one that's a fist. He's a great cartoonist, grew up on Mad Magazine, and he could do you know, pictures of people that you can recognize instantly. You can just draw them. I mean, he's a phenomenal artist in that way, and he's just funny and very sarcastic and a real charismatic character. So we're looking forward to him coming, and I just want to get people that are starting to think about doing this, because we got an opportunity to have a really great expert and teacher teach us how to do it. So anyway.
That's fantastic, and it's amazing timing as well, since Sean is working on developing stained glass facilities in the arts and crafts area right now. So that's going to be magic.
So he's going to come, and I should just say, he's going to come to the Knox Makers Market.
Great.
We're going to have a space together, and he's going to do some demonstrations, if you like, too. And so it should be really fun. He's really looking forward to it. He and Joan are. He's my age. He's 73. And you know, you get to our age, and he's done all this stuff, and then kind of selfish about learning your trade, and you want to, you don't necessarily, your kids are not necessarily interested in it. And so finding somebody that would be interested in sharing the skills with is a big deal.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next up, we've got our friend Russell, who's going to show off something that used to be a lamp.
That doesn't sound right.
It did. It used to be a lamp.
Well, wait a minute. Okay. What we have here used to be a sconce. So this mounts on the wall. This way? How's that? This mounts on the wall. This is just butts up against the wall, and then the lamp was actually up here. So I'm going to transform this into something else before your very eyes. All you have to do is turn it upside down, twist this around, and boom, you have the toilet paper holder for the restroom. And I didn't want to disappoint Billy, so it still has lights. I didn't want you to cry, Billy. All right, so I wanted to, I wanted to ask permission before I start drilling holes in the walls to mount something. So if I need to sign something or pay a fee or whatever, just let me know. Any questions?
How long did it take you to make?
About an hour, I guess. I didn't start till today, so just knocked it out. Wanted to get a toilet paper holder. All right.
That is a marvelous service to the community. Thank you, sir. Next up, we've got Benjamin, who is going to show us a vacuum chamber.
Can I set it up here? Sure. Okay. So, this is a vacuum chamber, but sorry. It's a vacuum chamber, but it's a special vacuum chamber. It's for lost wax casting, which is very kind of expensive. That's why I made it myself. Thing to try to do. Basically, what you have is you've got plaster mold, and it has wax patterns inside, and you can make like rings and things like that. And you're supposed to melt out the wax, and then you can pour metal inside where the void is left and cast things. The problem is that when you have these real fine details, the surface tension of the molten metal doesn't really let it go into all the details, so you have a vacuum. This perforated flask you fill with the wax pattern. It makes like a tree. You pour the plaster in, you put tape around it, and you fire it in a kiln and burn out the wax, and then you lower it down in the vacuum chamber, turn it on, and then you pour in the metal, and the plaster itself that you use is porous. And since you fired it in the kiln, all the water is gone, and it allows air to pass through, but the porosity of it is fine enough that it doesn't let the molten metal go through. So when you turn the vacuum on, it draws the metal down into all the crevices and details and everything. And so I don't know if I could. Where's the? Here it is. Oh no, it was bad. Will it appear on the screen? If I put, oh, okay. Yeah. See, that's a store-bought vacuum chamber, and he's putting the flask down in there. Those regular ones, they cost about $1,700, and this probably cost like $350. So, you know. See, he's got he's doing silver in that, and you can do like gold and silver. It's jewelers use it. And then you plunge it in there, and it's so hot that the water boils and it blasts out the plaster. They call it investment. So anyway, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. This is not me, by the way. I haven't used, when I do it, it will work every time. But anyway, I didn't do everything on this. Joe helped me. I don't guess he's here tonight. That's a shame. But he welded this and the bottom, and Billy did the machining for me for these adapters. There's 2 of them, so you can put different size flasks in. They bolt on the top, and there's a rubber gasket. I'll try and find the video of the machining because it was real crazy. But
Did you make the flask too, or is that after?
no, I bought these. Yeah, and they're expensive too. They're like the big one I got was like $90. So, but it's one-time thing. You don't buy 12 of them.
Did you design it?
Yes and no. I mean, I've seen this kind of general design before, but I added some things with the fittings here. It's going from galvanized pipe to brass, so I added a dielectric union. It keeps the corrosion from happening. I'm going to make parts for my car model. I've made some parts already. I've cast them in pewter, which is like a tin alloy, but it gets bubbles in it. And, anyway, that's the machining of this on the lathe. There's a hole saw. Anyway. All right, that's the end of my presentation. Huh? Yeah, anything up to I don't think you can do steel, but yeah, brass and bronze and all the, you know, semi-precious and precious metals. So. Yes, yeah, that's what I'm gonna do, is aluminum, yeah. No, oh, that's my other, that's what's holding me up, is, I bought a 3D printer and I'm trying to get it dialed in because there's resins that you can get for the 3D printer that are mimic wax. And so I'm trying to get it to actually print the stuff so that I can make stuff with this. And I bought everything else, the plaster, but you can get some really crazy details with it, just stuff that you could never make otherwise.
Is the plaster just one-off every time you use it? You have to mix it up
Yeah,
with that?
that's why it's called investment,
Right.
is your, and sometimes, like if you've ever dabbled in the stock market, sometimes your investment doesn't pay off, but, anyway.
That is an extremely cool and impressive project. I hope you'll come back with updates. I can't wait to see what you do with that. That's all the folks who signed up. Did anybody else bring anything they want to show this evening before we progress? Yes, sir. Yes, you in the ball cap. Yes. And here I thought you had another thing. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
So it was 16 years ago that I started making a quilt for my grandson, and it's called a What's This quilt. And for those of you who aren't familiar with what that is, I thought I would show you. So the biggest pain was collecting all the fabrics to make the to give all the different, hey, what's this? What's this? What's this? So yeah, I started it 16 years ago, and it was one of those unfinished projects in my closet when I joined Knox Makers a few years ago. So my grandson had completely outgrown that, but my newest grandson has been enjoying it immensely. My oldest grandson, is going to be turning 16 next weekend. So as a surprise, I'm making him his quilt. So I started out with about the yardage equivalent of 3 sheets of plywood. You then cut them into pieces. Well, I don't know if you can tell size, so I'll put it up here. Like this size, right? And then you sew them all back together. And that's the life of a quilter, right? You get big pieces of material, cut them down in little pieces, and then you put it back together. I have lots of things to say about it, but I thought, I don't want to bore you guys for 20 minutes because these are like 3-minute show and shares. So I'm hoping to do a lightning talk in a future meeting. So after our normal show and shares, then you can stay and listen to my saga of how I made this quilt, and the tears and the jerks and the fist. Yeah, there was that too, as well as the joys. And maybe some of the rest of you might have a project you've been working on that you'd like to talk a little bit more in depth on, and a lightning talk would be a great way. But without further ado, can I get 2 tall volunteers to help me show this quilt? And my fingers are crossed that my grandson's not watching tonight. Now he is 16, a boy. And he's into D&D. Now if you focus on one of the corners, you can kind of get the 3D effect of the Escher and then take your eye to the other corners. So, yeah. So he's into D&D, and if you turn it around,
You go over there, I'll go over here.
he's also into sci-fi and space. So I thought,
The Webb telescope.
why not? So we have the Death Star and kind of puzzles on the back. Yeah, so that's my share tonight. Thank you, gentlemen.
You obviously have a big quilting machine, correct?
No, I do not have a big quilting machine. This is on a regular home sewing machine.
Wow.
Yes, so that's part of the lightning talk is how do you get something this big into the itty bitty home sewing machine?
That's truly impressive, because my mom has a big quilting machine. Blown away by what she pulled off on hers.
That is really magnificent, Sue. It really tickles me to see somebody bring a project from 16 years and make it work, right? I mean, I literally picked up a project in my office this last weekend that's over 20 years old, and I'm like, oh, wow, look, it's that thing. Should finish that someday. I think we had another share over here. All right, great.
So I've shared before that I'm redoing a lathe, and the lathe has this carriage that goes back and forth, and most lathes right along the side, right where that is, where you can see that bolt sticking out, there's a thing called a threading dial, and that lets you determine how the carriage is moving left and right in relationship to that lead screw. But this was made in 1935. And I think it either was not offered or it was a separate thing. And anyway, this one did not come with one. So I've showed before about making the plastic gear that's going to interface with that. But I was just going to show you some more that I did with the dial. I've got lots of pictures here, but most of this is another project. Me being silly. So this is the arm that I welded. So I had this little piece here that I took that you can see that vertical post, and I welded it around, and I'm not a very good welder. So I did the best that I could, and I went around the base, and then I cut a square out of that base. And this is me cutting after I got it somewhat welded there. I don't think that shows up. It doesn't show very well there, does it? Right there. So then I cut it into a rough square. If I get this to stop. Then here I'm kind of shaping it into somewhat of a square there. That's me going to use a sander. Then that's another part. Then I mounted it up like on a bolt, and I used the lathe to try to smooth out that bevel. And I got it to like this, which was pretty ugly in my mind. You can see it's pretty rough there. But I kept working at it and got it.
That's a fillet?
Yeah, that's like a fillet. The weld kind of made it at an angle. And so then I got it looking nice and polished there. And so that's going to be the arm that holds it on. Then I think I couldn't find any footage where I was making the base shaft there. But that's the part, there's going to be a dial on one end, and on this end there's going to be the gear. So I had that all mounted, and then I designed it so that there would be the radius was about the same radius as my tool there, and got it all cut down. There it is there, almost done. Had to take real light cuts because I had a difficult time keeping that in the vise. So then I have it looking like this. So I've got some bearings in there on each end. And then I started working on a dial, and I forced, I don't know if you can see that part of it is steel and part of it is brass. So I had some brass, and I undersized it and then forced the brass around over that so that it's a really tight fit. Then I mounted that in a rotator thing, and I put some lines on it. And and that'll be the markers. Usually they're numbered 1 through 4. And then here is the final thing from the side, all mounted. Now you can see I got a little porosity there. There's a whole story behind that, but I'm hoping I can hide it under some paint. And here it is rotating as it moves along. So I think yeah. All right, any questions? Thank you.
What is the distance that you travel compared to the number of times it turns around?
Usually each number is 1 inch because you do 4 times the number of teeth, so that when it goes all the way around one loop, that's usually 4 inches, and so then you divide it up into 4 parts. So that each one is 1 inch. All right, thanks.
Really beautiful work. Did we have somebody else that brought something, I think? Oh, several, okay.
It'll stay like that. It's fine. It's gonna get bigger if I try and do anything else with it. Hi, I'm a prospective new member, and I want to talk a bit about the plastic recycling that I've been playing with all year. I have a lot of the, they do the grocery pickup bags, and I was curious if I could do anything with them besides just drop them back off there. I don't know how Kroger particularly deals with their recycling, but on average, 9% of all plastic that's ever produced is ever actually recycled. That can be 100% if I do it myself. And so looking at the manufacturer's website, it is made with MDPE, which is medium density polyethylene, which is close enough to high density polyethylene that I can do some at-home recycling techniques, which I have been doing primarily with a panini press and a toaster oven. And zoom out. I've been able to get some pretty promising results with just a kind of cruddy wooden mold that I made. But my limiting thing was I've got not the best mold here, and I was just clamping it with a bench vise. And I wanted to know, well, I'm using a lot of electricity to melt this down. Can I do it in a more sustainable way? Enter this solar oven, which is not assembled right now, and it's gonna be a pain in the butt to put together. But I wanted to know, can I even get to the temperatures where I need to be in order to be melting plastic? And the short answer is, because this was a puck that I had made in the panini press, and I put that in, and I was able to get some deformation, which then I tried using just a bag, and it's not as great as the pressed ones, but this was only using the sun being concentrated in the solar oven. I was able to get it condensed this much. No bench, just the weight of the pans I was using. I ran into a couple issues there, though. My solar oven is made of a ice box, which is made of polystyrene, which has, I didn't know if I was gonna get to the point where I need active cooling. I do. It's starting to deform on the inside. So either the adhesive, the spray adhesive that I'm using is not liking the heat, or I'm getting to temperatures that is melting the polystyrene. Either way, I thought that I could approach that by having a sort of bar in there that then the pan is hanging from, so that I don't have the hot thing in contact with the polystyrene. I have not had any success. It wasn't that hot today. I was trying to get a piece this way, but nothing worked for me today. So I'm hoping that either I can make a better mold and go back to doing it the other way, where I can get nice usable chunks of plastic that can replace wood, or get a better solar oven so that I can do it completely electricity free. That's where I'm at with my project, and thank you for the time. Yeah.
So, the sun is coming down through that top and then just bouncing around inside the silver?
Yeah, so it's ideally angled towards the sun. And the other thing is I need to manually be adjusting it every so often. I would, in a perfect world, it would be chasing the sun as it goes, and it's lightweight enough that I think that could be done with a couple of stepper motors pretty easily. But the other thing that I was trying to do here was, well, this is just a cheap styrofoam cooler. This is poster board. Could this be done in such a way that it could be done with children in like an educational setting? And I think that it could get there, but the more complicated it gets, the further away from that goal, which isn't the main goal. The main goal is get usable plastic that I can use as a replacement for wood or for injection molding. But where I'm at now, yeah, so it points in, the sun reflects in. There's a little bit of cling wrap here to try and keep the hot air inside. And I've got a little bit of ready foam here that fits into the groove that's built into the cooler. So I'm trying to keep it as insulated as possible, but I threw this together this week. I recently started on this part.
Do you know what temperature you need to get to melt the plastic?
So to melt the plastic, to get it to a ooey gooey temperature, I need to be at around 350 degrees Fahrenheit. I will admit I have been doing this not scientifically at all. I should be measuring the temperatures that I'm reaching inside. I haven't been. I haven't been keeping track of how long it's been out there because really I don't want to overcomplicate it if I don't have to. But I'm getting to the point where I need to overcomplicate this or I need to overcomplicate the other thing. And I don't have any other tangents to go down at this point. Yeah?
Have you thought about using a Fresnel lens instead of the saran wrap? And you can actually focus the lens so you can get a harder target without accidentally hitting the styrofoam box around it?
That would be cool. I don't know a whole ton about that, but then my concern there is if I get to the point where I need the active cooling, then I need to have the temperature monitoring in it. I need to have some way of doing active cooling. I don't want to melt my styrofoam or light anything in here on fire. So it's a delicate balance that I'm trying to just not have to do that much, but I'm getting to the point where it's gonna need something.
Have you tried mirrors at all?
I would love to try a parabolic dish, but that lights wood on fire really, really quick, and that just trying to get that lined up, and then again, that's going to be, I need to be monitoring that temperature a lot more carefully than this, just sit it in the sun and, my plastic got a little melty. It kind of works.
It's complicated.
Yeah. But
And you have diffusers in it.
mhm.
How many bags does it take to melt down to that block you've got?
You know what? It would have been great because I have made a sample piece. I think it's around, you get 43.5 grams of plastic from a single bag. I think that this is probably maybe 10 bags, optimistically. So like you can, it's neat. And then like any offcuts you have, you can just melt back down and make back. So it's a material I would really like to work more with. I just need to get it to the point where it's a workable material. Yeah.
Have you done any testing on the strength of it?
Not yet, but I would be I'd be really happy to if anyone knows how to do that strength testing. Like I've got a bunch of planks that I would love to find that out.
I have a break here, you can just see how much force it takes to snap it.
Actually, you know what? This one was one bag before I then melted it again. So this is how much plastic you get from one bag.
Do you get any fumes? Is there any toxic fumes you have to worry about?
So with HDPE and MDPE, you don't have to so long as you're not passing the burning temperature, which I don't know offhand, but using the panini press and toaster oven, I haven't done that. You can have issues with that if you're not using clean plastic or if you go above, but for the most part, you don't have to worry about fumes, which is why it's really nice for doing at-home recycling as opposed to PET or other non-number 2 plastics. Yeah?
Have you thought of other heating methods that use reclaimed energy, like clamping your block inside your engine block on your drive to work? Use the heat from your engine to to?
No, that's really interesting. I don't have the automotive expertise to do that, but I would be really interested in using other ways of heating. I recently got a new dishwasher, which meant that I got to take the old one apart. So now I've got a heating element that I'm looking at. I was like, can I use this to melt plastic? I don't know. If I could ideally get it to the point where this could, like I could be solar heating and extruding filament, that'd be awesome. That'd be great. I'm not at that point yet. I'm just experimenting and trying to get this to work.
You try to dryer then?
No. No, and I was doing laundry today. That'd be fun. But yeah, thank you for all the questions. Oh, I'm sorry. More questions.
If you're strongly equipped overheating,
Yeah.
can you consider a double boiler? Because you
Yeah.
said 160 Fahrenheit, right?
350.
Oh, my bad. Never mind, that won't work.
And strengthening with wood chips or paper strips is a great way to strengthen those plastic blocks.
That-
Really Trex wood, I've been to that plant and see how they make those. That's exactly what they do. Is they shred the same way you're doing. They add ground up wood or ground up paper to add strength.
They do PVC that way.
Yeah,
My
With
cons-
flour in it.
yeah. So that because it gives the wood fibers give it the strength.
And that would definitely strengthen it, but my concern is any additives that I put in then prevents it from being recycled further. If I have something that needs that strength, and I know that this is going to be a part that I'm going to use for a long time, that would be great. But as is, I'd like to have sustainability and reusability being the forefront of this project. Cool. Thank you. I think my fiance might kill me if I come home with but probably. I think the answer is we need a solar.
I'll tell you what, the magic and the danger of Knox Makers is if you ever ask for ideas or even imply that you might be open to ideas, we will bury you. Also, my admittedly limited experience with dishwashers would tell you can absolutely melt plastic with that. I think somebody else had a share, maybe? Okay, you in the back, who's not Russell.
Hey everyone, I'm Alex. I'm still a trial member here, but I've been working with 3D printing, teaching myself how to do Fusion 360, CAD work, different stuff. I've only been doing it for like a month or so it's still in its early stages, but one of the things that I've been trying to 3D print and kind of reverse engineer is a Rotary Union, just a single valve Rotary Union to hopefully eventually be able to make a rotary evaporator, which is basically a vacuum distiller that rotates so it increases the surface area for evaporation, and you put it in a water bath to essentially boil things at a much lower temperature, like 30 degrees C. And use that in a lot of distilling processes, but it's also been used in the high-end restaurant scene for making all sorts of really fun distilled food items and things like that. So this is my first prototype of Rotary Union. It's got 3 gaskets to hopefully hold a vacuum. I'm working on getting a heated chamber for my 3D printer so I can print it in ABS as well, and also use, I'm hoping, nylon for the actual rotating joints to increase stability. But yeah, so that's what I've been working on.
What is that made of there?
This is just made out of PLA and some gaskets from Ace Hardware right now, just to get the dimensions right and things like that. But yeah, that's it. Thanks.
Okay. Anyone else before we close up shop on this? Super cool to have trial members doing shares. I like that especially. That's really exciting. Also, the experimental shares are really fun. Maybe it's just me, but I often do projects that are kind of like with a more or less guaranteed outcome, because otherwise I'm really sad. So I really admire people who are like out there just trying it out. I do have a few announcements to share with you this evening. First of all, class-wise, I just wanted to remind you that we've got this Saturday, which is July the 23rd, we'll be hosting TIG Welding 201, which includes both the plasma cutter and the TIG welder. Prerequisite is the Welding 101 class, or possibly just extreme comfort welding. So this is sort of a next level advanced class. It's really exciting to be able to offer stuff like this. That's $25 for members, $75 for the general public. We do actually, I think, have tickets remaining still. Also, I wanted to remind you that next Tuesday, after our show and share event, we will be hosting a new member onboarding. That is a prerequisite for membership here. And it's also just kind of a cool thing if you're thinking about membership, or if you're already a member and you just haven't been to one. You're certainly welcome to hang out with us on that. Also wanted to make a special announcement regarding the upcoming event, the Knox Makers Makers Market. David, are you interested in doing this bit, or shall I? Let me hand things over to David, who's really been taking point on this, doing a tremendous amount of work for us.
Hey everybody, so far the Makers Market is on task to be really good and really special. We're over halfway booked on our vendor spots. Still needing volunteers. We have about 13, I would say, critical positions that we need to have filled for the event itself to make it run quite smoothly. In fact, if half the people in this room signed up, we would be done with that already. So if you haven't already heard about the volunteer portion of what we need to do for the Maker Market, there are signs around, and you can also talk to me afterwards, and I'll put you on the right track on how to get involved in that. We are also accepting vendors that are free, that can just show off what they're showing. So if you're not selling anything, you can just come and show off anything that you make, talk about stuff, do demos, things of that nature. But yeah, it's supposed to be a really great event, and I think that hits everything nicely and quickly. Any questions about that? No? Cool.
So this will be our inaugural Maker Market. This is not something we've tried before, so it's a new venture, one of those experimental things that you don't know exactly what's going to happen, right? But I think it's kind of exciting. It's not the sort of thing you ordinarily see happen in South Knoxville, and so I think that's going to make it interesting. And two, of course, this is an opportunity for a lot of folks in the larger community who maybe don't know anything very much about Knox Makers and don't know what kind of things y'all get up to see some of the things that you make and possibly buy them from you. So I think this is going to be nifty, and I'm really interested to see how it turns out. Otherwise, volunteering department, can somebody get the trash for us this evening? Will somebody volunteer to get the trash? One at a time. Is there anybody who's not Russell who's willing to get the trash? How about you, sir? Thank you very much. And we also would like to have the air filters changed this evening if possible. Benjamin, thank you very much. Tracy, you look very much as if you have something to say. Well, I didn't write that down. We do have a cookout because we have our 12th anniversary coming up. Knox Makers has almost existed for 12 years. Sorry, I forgot. And it was even my idea that John Dale should have to do this. So we're going to cook foods and we're going to eat foods, and it's going to be amazing. We did that right after sort of the pandemic let up, and it was a super good time. So we're going to do it again. And Tracy, what day is that again? August 2nd. It's August the 2nd, in case you didn't know. So we'll do that sort of before the show and share. We'll probably delay the Tuesday night show and share just a little bit to make sure everybody has a chance to get in and get fed. I think John Dale's taking point on that. So very excited. It's going to be delicious, and it's nice to hang out and eat foods together. What time? We will probably start eating foods what time, John Dale? At 6-ish sounds delicious. So probably about 6-ish is when he's going to start bringing those things up off the grill, and you're going to want to be here with your mouth open. Finally, if you have never been here before and you would like to get a tour, or if you have any questions about Knox Makery things, see somebody on the board with the shiny red badge, and we'll be happy to help you out along those lines. We're going to go out in the shop now and goof off, make weird things, and talk about them. Thank you, everyone, for being with us tonight.